thank you all for coming out. Most of you I have met over the years. I'm Bill Paschall. Today I'm wearing the hat as Executive Director of ACIA. I see a number of our members here. If they're dispensaries or cultivation facilities who haven't joined ACIA yet, shameful plug, find me after this and let's talk about the benefits. I'm up here with my friend Doralee Chandler, whom I speak with relatively frequently, like 3 or 4 times a week, to talk about different things that are going on in the regulatory world of marijuana. And I can tell you, I know some of you will spit, but she's actually been a pleasure to work with. We have our differences at times, but she's accessible and listens and tries to work with us. So we have a good industry partner in our regulator at ABC. Doralee, you want to tell them a little bit about who you are and what ABC does, and then we'll do some questions and take some questions from the audience.
So I have a dual hat. I wear I call it beverage control hat, as well as medical marijuana oversight for the rules and regulations. And so I spend about 50% of my time overseeing alcohol board meetings and all those over 6,000 permits, in addition to oversight of the medical marijuana violations. And with that, I have with us back there are some of the agents. If y'all want to wave, they probably already know y'all, and they'll shoot me later for pointing them out, as well as Chip Leibovich, who is on staff with me. And so we're just here to oversee and make sure that the industry grows and moves forward.
So one of the common misconceptions that I hear all the time in talking to folks that are in the business is the separation and demarcation between the ABC and the Medical Marijuana Commission. And the simplest way to explain that is the Medical Marijuana Commission has a very limited role. They basically issue license and deal with renewals. The ABC, which Doralee is the director of, deals with day-to-day operational rules. And most of you know the ABC just moved along a set of operational rules for the coming year. This last meeting that will go before the legislature in a month and will become final. But in her role at ABC, they directly impact day-to-day operations of the cultivation facilities and dispensaries, because that's who issues the rules for operations. So Doralee, given that background, what's the biggest challenge you guys face day-to-day at ABC when it comes to the medical marijuana industry?
So, I think one of the biggest challenges that we face day to day is, this is an immature industry. We're building, we're growing it. But the biggest challenge, I think, is for you all to understand the role that we play, and that we're not here to issue punishment, but to work with you. And so we seek on a daily basis for you all to understand that I have an open door policy, and to grow that relationship, as with any state agency that's overseeing permittees and licensees, to build that relationship and that trust and confidence that you all have in coming to us with your questions and your concerns. From the day I was appointed director there in December of 2018, I've always had that open door policy. Bill uses it quite frequently. And it's for the ABC side as well as the medical marijuana. If you have issues, if you have concerns, bring them forward. Don't feel that you can't reach out and communicate with me. Make that appointment. You may not like what I have to say. You may not agree with me, but we're all professionals. And at the end of the day, even if we disagree, when we walk out of that room, we're still professionals. And we'll still maintain that professional level of degree between us and working and moving forward. And if you think that I'm wrong or our agency's interpretation is wrong, we welcome you to come and have that discussion with us. And, we may change our mind. We may trying to compromise. But at the end of the day, like I said, we're professionals that work together, and we'll continue that professional relationship, even if we have to say at this point we're just going to have to agree to disagree.
And I can say that she's absolutely on track. I've never had issue with getting a meeting with her or bringing up an issue that you guys pass along to me that is causing a headache for you in your day-to-day operations. We've always been able to get an audience and try to work through that. So I do appreciate that. And as there have been regulators in the past, I've been around a long time, and there have been regulators in the past that wasn't the case. You couldn't get meetings with them. So it's been a welcome change to have somebody that we could at least have the conversation with. And so now I'm going to roll into one that we've had conversations about that's been a headache for everybody over the years that's in the industry here. It's the RIC card issue. Can you walk through the changes you guys have made in that process to try to streamline it and work through some of the kinks?
So we have been modifying the RIC card process, and I know that's been a frustration for many of you all, waiting on the state background checks, the federal background checks before we could issue those cards. And so we have asked to streamline it. I actually, this next month, when I send out the renewal applications, I'll also be sending out a new RIC form application for you all to maintain. We have pulled that RIC card application off of the website. Those are forms that we are asking that you all hand out directly to your potential employees. What we have run into in the past is they have been printing them off, partially completing them, filling out your portions of them, showing up and expecting a RIC card when we don't even really have them hired by you all at that point. So we're trying to eliminate that as well as some of the confusion. There's an instruction sheet that's going to be on the front. We will put the instruction sheet on the website for them to see, which the first step is for them to come to you all to obtain their application form. And so it's essentially, I think I've got it narrowed down to 5 steps for them. One of the changes that occurred in this last legislative session that went into effect in July is that the state police will not process those fingerprint cards at their facilities. So anyone in state is going to have a live scan or a harvester to perform those fingerprint cards. We have run into some slowdowns of getting just recently those FBI results back in from the facilities. They go to a website that's controlled by the state police that then sends them over to us to review and pass out and get the cards issued. So we're trying to get that. It's a streamlined, probably as fast as it can be streamlined. And some of the applicants and you all as well need to understand that when they have a background check that comes back that has a flag on it, we have to further review that. I know that most of them are telling you that they have a clean background, but we actually see those reports. And so that also slows down the process. And so that's another reason that when we ask you all to have them bring that application in, they only bring $25 of the $50 in. It's because the constitutional amendment sets out that within 10 days of us receiving full payment for that RIC card, we must issue that card. Well, if they have a felony that is questionable on their background check, that slows that time frame down. And so we can't meet that deadline and potentially will not ever be able to issue that card. So it's a 2-step process, and sometimes they do get frustrated wanting to bring both payments in at the same time. The process is they will submit that application. Going forward, the live stream harvesters are supposed to be getting the rights and requirements from them. They may still have them sign rights and requirements at that facility, but with that employment application, they're going to have to submit those to us because we cannot maintain those fingerprint results in our office without that rights and requirement. And many times we're not receiving that, and that can jeopardize our ability to process these applications from the federal government. So we're going to add that mandate. It's in the instruction sheet. This form is going to be emailed out to the license holders to pass to who they deem necessary. I will send it in a PDF as well as a fillable PDF form if you all want to fill it out with them at site. The step 3, I believe, on that form is got the 3 different options they have for running background checks, as well as the link to the state police page to allow you to see where they can go get live scan or harvesters completed. And so we're also adding a server at DFA to try and speed up the process, because sometimes the server, due to the number of just the basic volume between employee and ownership cards that we're issuing, causes the system to crash, and it's usually down for the day once it does that. So we're adding additional servers, moving stuff off of servers to help with that speed.
So while we're on the topic of day-to-day headaches, let's talk about BioTrack. So most of you know or may know that the BioTrack contract actually lives with the Department of Health. It's not Doralee's contract, but most of it, the complaints land on her desk and not the Department of Health. BioTrack came in for a meeting with the legislature about a month ago. I know they met with some of the industry leaders. They met. I had a brief meeting with them. I know they've been doing some online trainings, but Doralee, is there anything you can shed, any light you can shed on how we're still trying to improve that relationship and work through some of those kinks with BioTrack?
We're continuing to have meetings with them on a weekly basis to go over defects that may be brought to their attention by you all. I'm asking those licensees that have backlog tickets or having issues that need immediately addressed by BioTrack to reach out to me, let me know, give me the ticket number. Let me look into it with them and see where they're going. They're making improvements. I know that sometimes you all don't see that improvement because some of the times it's on the back end and it's actually improvements to help the agency. And so it doesn't translate over to something that you see on the front side, but we are continually working with them. They're continuing to do the training classes. What we're seeing are some of those individuals that are using or entities that are using BioTrack are not updating. So every time that we have them do a upgrade, an improvement to resolve an issue, unless you all schedule your upgrade for your individual POS system, it's not going to work for you all. It'll only work for those that are running that most current version. And so we ask that you check to make sure. I also have a list of the version. I received a list when they came to the legislature of the version that those of you that are on BioTrack are running, along with the current version. So if you want to email me if you have a question about that, I can confirm what version you're running versus what it needs to be, and we can get you scheduled for an upgrade. It also is an important fact to be for you all who are not using BioTrack as the third-party provider and using someone different for your individual POS system. Sometimes those upgrades to Arkansas Stems does have glitches that are not able to mesh with your POS system. And so sometimes that's going to require legwork on your part to reach out to LeafLogix or one of the other POS systems that you're using to ask them to look into and create a ticket on their end so that that synchronization will still work between the two systems.
Thank you. So, marijuana in Arkansas is taxed at 10.5%. 6.5% of that goes to the general revenue. 4% of it goes to the National Cancer Institute that we're trying to develop the accreditation for here at UAMS. So none of that money goes directly to her budget. It goes into the general fund. And the question that we have as an industry, we recognize that you have a lot on your plate, especially wearing two hats, dealing with the alcohol industry and medical marijuana. Is your budget adequate? Is there something that we need to do as an industry to lobby on behalf to try to get more money, get money directly flowing to your agency? As we want regulators that have been properly trained, and which yours have, but we want to make sure that there is enough money to carry out the work that you need to do, because it helps us. I heard Jay True Love or somebody speak earlier about regulators really do help us run a good business. We have a different market than other states because we are a limited license state with a lot of guidelines, but it can be a symbiotic and a very professional and beneficial relationship as long as both sides want to work together. We just want to know, is there something that we can do to help? Is there, you have enough resources to manage the workload?
So, as many of you know, because you've talked to my staff, we have full-time 2 positions. That's Chip as the staff attorney and Maggie, who is a legal assistant. Those are 2 full-time positions that are filled and funded through the medical marijuana funds, whether it's the licensing or the violation fines that come in. And then I carry over and wear that split hat and work as much as I can on the marijuana side, splitting my time with alcohol. We also have another position that is split at this point in time, and that is Carla, who handles the violations. So you will deal with Carla some if you receive any violations. She, like myself, is split between the 2 hats. So, we are working within the budget. The funds that are coming in between the licensing and the fines do fill our budget at this time for the staff that has been allocated to me. Obviously, if you gave me 3 more people, I could certainly keep them busy. There's no question, but I think we're doing our best to be efficient within the constraints that we have, and that's 2 full-time employees and Carla working 50, probably 25 to 75 split ratio for her.
As you all know, painfully know, the license fees in Arkansas are pretty steep. So you're acutely aware of the kind of money we generate through the licenses. But on the fine side, how's that money used? When these folks have to pay a violation fine, is that just used to help pay for enforcement? Fund enforcement is the word I was trying to use.
So the marijuana funds all go into the general revenue, and that's allocated out through our budgets, and there is a split that goes to enforcement as well as to administration that helps fund those positions, those employment positions, as well as office supplies and those items to go out in the field and for them to do their work and complete auditing. And so it's kind of a split fund, and it's combined with those licensing fees.
Okay, big question, and then I'm going to turn it over to the audience and let them ask anything. If I were the genie and I could grant you one wish here for medical marijuana in Arkansas as a regulator, what would you like to see?
So wishes and dreams are what we reach for. Those are those high standards that are up there that we always strive to reach for. In this industry, we can't work in the hypotheticals, but I don't think you're going to let me out of this room without answering that question. So if I had to say was one wish that I could make for this industry, it would be that it worked on a daily basis seamlessly, not perfect, because nothing's ever perfect, but seamlessly for the state agencies, the licensees, and especially for the patient card holders.
Okay, audience, your questions, your time. You got more? You want to go?
I do have some stuff.
All right.
I have some stuff that hopefully will help you all.
Awesome.
And so some of the things that we're seeing before I get to your questions are issues that enforcement and administration are seeing are these multiple adjustments in your inventory. We're constantly seeing reports of thousands of adjustments going forward. And so we have a few recommendations for you all on that. And so, some of this isn't going to be necessarily applicable to you unless you grow, but we're just going to run through these. Breaking down bulk product, it needs to be, our recommendation is you physically break them down prior to digitally breaking down to reduce the magnitude of adjustments, because sometimes when you physically break it down, the math doesn't add up to what you digitally inputted, and then you're completing all these different adjustments to make those figures match. So if you actually do your physical breakdown and then go into enter it in digitally into the system, that will cut down on the number of adjustments you all are making. Misgrabs. We are seeing a lot of misgrabs from the dispensaries on sales. Your employees are grabbing the wrong product, selling it. So then when inventory time comes, you're short on one product that you shouldn't be short on. And so there's mechanisms within BioTrack for those who have BioTrack to lock down those cells requiring a barcode. They have forwarded me the steps for you to put those restrictions in, so it allows for you to kind of double check to make sure what they've grabbed is actually what they're selling. And so I will email those out when I email out the new RIC card application, and as well as I've asked BioTrack at their next training on STEMs to also walk through those procedures for those of you that have the BioTrack third party or BioTrack point of sale system. I've also been told that LeafLogic has a version, and if you have any other entity, please ask them if they have a version to help. My understanding is that LeafLogic has worked to create one for at least one of the licensees to help a lockdown where, in addition to that bar scan, they actually have to enter the last 4 digits of that UIN. This will cut down on those missed grabs and help with your inventory, because when we see a missed grab, we're going to investigate it. You're going to have agents looking into what's going on. Why are these adjustments being taken place with a missed grab or some other type of adjustment? That's what enforcement does, is to review and analyze why you're having these adjustments. So if you can reduce those adjustments, you're going to reduce the amount of investigations that are going on and looking into what's going on. Another issue that we're seeing on adjustments are eaches. We have those eaches for the cartridges, the gummy packages. Those are packaged with an intent to have an individual each, not to be broken down. But we're seeing adjustments where you're actually not adjusting a whole figure. You're adjusting half of an each. And so those need to be whole figure adjustments, because you're either adjusting that entire package of gummies off or that cartridge, but not a portion of it. And so you just need to watch on those inputs. Those eaches should be adjusted as whole numbers. So, and another thing that some of you all may or may not know, but there's actually an ability, and you can reach out with STEMs for training on this, but for destructions and conversions, there's a period in time in which those conversions and destructions can be undone. Instead of making an adjustment, you can actually undo that mistake. And so I'm also asking for them to give more detailed training at the next session when they do their training on how to undo those instead of making them actual adjustments. And I think the last thing on inventory and adjustments is the recommendation that we're hearing from enforcement is that if you all are when you all go in and do your inventory checks, if you will pull the inventory out of our STEMs and do your inventory check through our STEMs, if there's a discrepancy with your POS system, then investigate why it's there. If you have a third party, it may be they're not pushing the synchronization correctly to our STEMs. And if that's the case, you need to create a ticket with whatever third party POS system you're using. And so that will help with your adjustments and help with your inventory discrepancies. I've got just one more before we can go to the Q&A. Renewal season. As you all know, renewal season is quickly upon us. I will be sending out that renewal application for the licensees to be completed. There's a couple of notations I just want to point out to you on those that I saw this last year. When we ask for the licensee or the license location and business phone number, some of you all put down the cell number of the permit holder. Those numbers and that address is what we release to the public so they can locate your facility or call you with questions. So please keep that in mind when you're filling out the form. Whatever number you put down as that business number and that business address is what's going out to the public when they call us and ask for where's the dispensary located in Pulaski County or Benton County. So keep that in mind, because I've had permit holders call me because their phone's been blown up. Well, it's been blown up because on the renewal application, that's the number they used. And so also when we're asking for licensee's point of contact, that is actually the licensee's contact, not the person that you want to be the point of contact for information and communications between ABC, whether it's administration or enforcement. Though there is a spot lower on that application that asks for the contact information for that point of contact of who you really want to be answering our phone calls and our questions. And so we set that out. going forward for this renewal season, all renewal applications are coming directly to me. So when they're submitted and I will review them, we will start sending them back if these questions aren't answered, adequately, if there's blanks. So we will be returning those. That's one of the reasons we're sending them out at the 1st of March, is so that we have that luxury and that time frame to make sure that these are complete and accurate before we present them to the commission for approval. Once they're presented to the commission for approval, you will receive the point of contact that's listed on that renewal application. Once approved, will receive a voucher as well as a spreadsheet of the employees that you have on staff at the time I tell IT to print that voucher for you all. That you will then do similar to what we did last year. You'll mark whether you want to renew that individual or not renew that individual. If you're renewing that individual, please mark whether you're submitting the payment with that renewal form or not. Something that's really important is this year we will not be able to accept cash for any of the renewals for the dispensary, cultivation, or processor licenses. Last year we had some of you all bring cash. We sent you over to cashiers at DFA to process that. DFA's cashiers department will not be accepting cash, so they will not be processing those this year for you all. You are going to have a money order or cashier's check of something of that nature and bring it to our office. As many of you know, we did move April of last year. We're at 101 East Capitol, just over a couple of streets. And so that address, we were in the middle of renewal when we sent out renewal and moving. And so the renewal forms last year did have our old address on them. This year they have been corrected. They have our new address going forward. The last important thing about renewals that you all need to keep in mind is if you get an employee RIC card between the time I send out that renewal form to you all for that renewal and June 30th, you're going to have to renew that employee's RIC card, or that it will expire on July 1. And so we run into that issue. We ask that you just simply write their name on the bottom of that spreadsheet and check the appropriate boxes applicable to that individual. And when we process those checks, we're hoping at the renewal time period, by the time it gets here, because this is not just renewal for MMC, it's renewal for ABC as well as all alcohol brand label registrations all come in the office. So we'll have over 100,000 brand label registrations being renewed, over 6,500 ABC applications, and then as well as all of the RIC cards and license. So we're busy. I'm hoping at that point to have hired an additional ABC employee that will actually be running more on the MMC side during renewal period and will be assisting me. She and I will be, or he and I, whoever we hire, will be processing those renewals personally, and so that Maggie can continue to handle the RIC cards that are coming in on a daily basis. So that's kind of the landscape for what we're looking at for renewal. This is a little bit different from last year. Every year we're hoping to tweak this and make it smoother and less stressful for everyone. It's a process. We're in our infancy still, only 2 years in, and so hopefully we will build and create a smooth running but not perfect system.
Did you guys take copious notes there? Threw a lot at you. Hope you.
There's an instruction sheet that's coming out with it.
Good. Questions from the audience?
Yes, the processor's licenses will be handled on the renewal aspect, will be handled the same this year as the dispensaries and the cultivations. And you will receive the application. It will be emailed out to you just like the other entities. And then you will also, once the commission approves that application for renewal, you'll receive the spreadsheet and the voucher to go forward. What we're not mailing out to you all are the individual vouchers that we have to supply to deposit the funds for those individual employees. We're not going to pass those back and forth, which is why we're doing the spreadsheet with the check. Once I see the check, yes, you're renewing them, I'll go pull your vouchers at that point.
Questions? Yeah.
So one of the reasons, are you talking about communications between us as an agency and the license holders?
Across the board with the ADA change.
So when the rules change and are actually promulgated, like I did last year when we finished the promulgation process, I email those out to the license holders or the point of contacts to share with you all what those new rules are, so that they can go through that process, and which comes back to the open door policy. And one of the greatest challenges is, if you all have questions and concerns, you need to reach out to us so that we can walk through, because we send the rules out and they are written by attorneys. And so with that in mind, we know that there can be confusion in interpreting those rules. And many of the license holders that we're finding now have brought on compliance agents to oversee compliance, to assist. And, we're more than welcome. They're more than welcome to reach out, contact us, have a sit down with us. We'll walk them through those rules and see what questions they have and what processes that you all are doing that may or may not need to be tweaked based upon the new rules.
And another shameless plug for ACIA. We try our best to keep you guys plugged in. If your dispensary or cultivation facility has not received a copy of the proposed rules at least twice, probably 3 times, you're probably not a member of ACIA. Because we've done that 3 times, and Doralee has been gracious with her time. We usually have at least once a year have her address our board and membership and talk about any changes in rules that are out there, or just have a conversation about rules changes that we foresee needing as we continue down the road. So we try to do our best to help her communicate new rule changes, or have those conversations about rules that need to be tweaked or totally eliminated going forward. So shameless plug for ACIA. If you hadn't joined, please do. We'll keep you in the loop.
Well, and we also, if we see a pattern, and where I'm actually working on kind of a frequently asked question memo to email out right now on stuff that we're seeing a pattern of that needs corrected. And so, or those questions that we're continuously getting when we do get the phone calls. And so I am working on those. I've been pulled a different direction a few times in the last month, and so I've not been able to get it completed, but one of those emails is coming out with those issues to be addressed. It's been a while since we've sent one out. Those do go to the point of contact, because I just simply, our email structure will not allow me to send it out to 1,100 people. So we send those out directly to the point of contact for each license holder.
Next question.
So the question is adjusting the amount within the system when a delivery arrives. It's a different amount than the manifest. So when you look at our rules, the manifest that the dispensaries are accepting, they can only accept that which is contained on that manifest. So they have to accept the manifest amount as it being accurate. If there is an amount that's on that manifest that's in that shipment that's different than the manifest, then they need to reject those additional. If you send 5 more, they need to reject those additional 5 and send them back, because by the rules, the manifest dictates what should be in that shipment and what they should accept and what should be going out of the facility.
Kyle, answer your question. You want to follow up?
You're gonna have to speak up a little bit, Kyle. I can't. You're blinded from reading your lips, and
Yeah.
So the guidelines that I went through earlier are not rule specific. Those are guidelines that we are recommending to you all to reduce the number of adjustments. So they're not per se in a specific rule. However, keep in mind, if there are adjustments taking place based upon that description, we will start an investigation for either theft or improper use of the data tracking system. And so those suggestions or recommendations to you all is to help reduce the number of investigations that we have to complete. Because those will take time. They'll allocate resources in a direction that may not even necessarily be done. And it'll be more efficient for you all. Many of those suggestions that we had require multiple steps for you to do those adjustments. Whereas if you can undo them as opposed to making 6 steps to adjust, it would be a quicker process for you all. So some of this is efficiency for you all, that not just an assistance to the agents.
Question? Yes, sir.
So I don't have any actual firsthand knowledge on what steps that the ADH are doing to streamline their system. I know that the patient cards and the process of applying for those cards are important to them, and that they're working to streamline it. But I don't have the specifics. I'm not involved in those communications. I don't know if Bill's heard anything.
Yeah, I don't have anything specific. I do know the Department of Health has kind of put up the shield around themselves recently. They've got a lawsuit against them, and they've been slow to promulgate rules that are companion to state laws that were passed last session. There's a high level of frustration sitting in this chair and in this room with the lack of movement from them in actually promulgating rules. But I will reach out to them and ask if there is any affirmative program to make it easier for a patient to apply, or a potential patient to apply for a card. That should not be a barrier. The cost is a barrier enough. That should not be a barrier. Questions? Yes, sir.
So I think actually that's something that we've had discussions on is the recording, and at this point in time, obviously the rural promulgation, we're finished looking at the rules for at least until the next legislative session. You're more than welcome to submit that to us. After talking with enforcement, we felt that the most efficient method for us and the safest method was to have those recording 24/7. We've run into issues of them not triggering with movement as they should. And when we promulgate these rules, they're promulgated to cover everybody. And I know that some of you all have equipment that's of a different level than others. Some barely meet the minimum requirements. And we've had issues of those cameras because when we were testing them to not actually trigger and on movement. And so we felt that for security purposes, the best was to have that 24/7.
Yes, sir.
So we often get phone calls, not on a weekly basis, but we've received phone calls from individuals patients that have expressed frustration to us. We usually send them to the Consumer Protection Division of the Attorney General's office. We've also, if they've had an experience that's been less than pleasurable, with a physician and the physician's handling it, we've actually sent them over to the medical board to voice their complaint to them. That's not a hat that I wear, so there's little I can provide in assistance. So we do send them over to the AG's office. Because of all the other issues that we're dealing with and pulls and strains on our agency, I've not followed the AG with that to see where they're doing. I do know that they have received reports. They've reached out to me and obtained potential patients' names and contact numbers so that they could work with them regarding those agencies.
And I can add, just in conversations with some of the folks at Department of Health, the Board of Health has cracked down on some of those folks that I think you're hearing about that are skirting the certification laws. And the Board of Health is it's come to their attention, and they've put some heat on those operators. We have over 800 physicians in Arkansas that have done certifications. So, and they're pretty much in every corner. I can't say they're in every county, but there are a number. Shocked me when I saw that number from the Department of Health, but it's over 800. So there should be ample opportunity out there for people to find a doc outside of those that you guys keep hearing about that are problem children. Questions? Chansky, you don't have a question back there? You're going to hold your tongue for a change, huh? Yes, sir.
So, as we're saying here right now, that contract is with the Department of Health. And so with them controlling that contract regarding other options, it's their contract. And so I do not have the liberty to entertain others at this point in time.
So that contract is in the 5th year of a 7-year. They have an option to roll it over at the end of the year. So Bill Paschall, who's ACIA will tell you that it's not likely that we'll see a change in vendor before that contract is up. At the end of that 7-year period, I'm guessing if that contract does not get shifted over to Doralee's shop, if ADH keeps it, there'll be a robust opportunity for others to at least apply, because they've had it for 7 years. They may win that contract again. We've, as Doralee has said over and over, we say the same thing. We're agnostic when it comes to the vendor. We just want one that works for you guys, and we want one that has great customer service and we can reach when there's an issue. And I think while BioTrack is not perfect, between the industry and between Doralee's constant conversations, they have improved, and we're going to keep working with them and keep pushing them to improve. And I know I see a number of faces out there of folks in the industry who have had those conversations with them and had given them specific, the headaches that you guys are facing every day. And it seems after a really slow start that they're beginning to respond and trying to work with us more closely. Frankly, it's, a few years late, but it's improved. And that contract, when it's up in, this is 2022, I guess 2024, I expect there will be a number of vendors that chase it and try to get it, which hopefully, whomever that is, that competition will improve their customer service. So I hear if you don't have that special phone number, sometimes it's hard to get that focal person on the line. Other questions? Yes, sir.
I think at this point that's probably still kind of a future thing. Most of the time we're leaving some of that to local law enforcement in those discussions with them and the local prosecutors and the city leaders and their desires. But I think that that's definitely a future endeavor that will be looked at. Fayetteville is one of those that's kind of on the edge, and they're where we see the first of everything out of the alcohol industry. Generally, is up there. The cutting edge comes out of the Northwest.
Questions? Okay, we'll wrap this up and give everybody 10 minutes break before the next session, I guess. Thank you for your great questions and your attention.